based on a poll that was posted on a page some days ago, we got that okay, quite a number of people are interested in this. A lot of people are trying to apply to grad school this year in biosphere, and as an organization, a community that is poised to support its members to achieve um, the best in their career path. So we deem it fit to organize this event, and of course we're doing that by leveraging the experience of people who have actually run the path, who have run the race and have been successful at it. So they are here tonight. They will be our panelists. We'll be benefiting from their knowledge and experience. So it's going to be a panel discussion. I'm going to, be asking our panel members questions that we have gathered based on interest, what people want to know. I'll be asking them some questions and they'll be providing answers. And at the end of the session, we're going to have the Q&A for the member of the audience, please. So if you have a question, please note it down. You can put it in the chat box. We'll read it to them. So kindly, we'll have a lot of questions that we're going to ask them. Hopefully, we'll cover them. And if you don't cover your questions, you can still ask them during the Q&A section. So please kindly don't interrupt the panelists when they are answering their questions. And all right, of course, the panel members, you also know that we only have 1.5 hours, so we know this based on passion. There's a lot that you probably want to share, but let's do that within the constraints of time. All right, so I'm moving on now to introduce our panel members. All right, so here we have 4 panelists. Permits me to introduce all of them. The first person I'm going to mention is Damilola Bolande. She's a pharmacist by background in baccalaureate background. She's currently an MPH MBA graduate candidate at the Johns Hopkins University in the United States. Victory is a PhD student at Miami University in Ohio. We have Marvellous, who is an MSc candidate and graduate research assistant in Renewable Systems program at Penn State University. And lastly, we have Paul Owolabi, who's also a PhD student in cancer biology at the West Virginia University. So we have 4 current grad students in the United States presently will be anchoring and enlightening us on how to run the race to securing grad admission to the US, fully funded grad admission to the US, hopefully. So they are here to answer our questions. And of course, based on for that more context that they share, we'll be knowing more about them as we go on along with the program. So like I said, please, if you have any question, you're free to please drop it in the chat box so it will be read to the panelists when we get there. All right. So let's jump right into it. So this is the first overall topic that we'll be discussing, basically, because this is where it all starts from, like choosing the right schools and programs. Yes, I would like to ask this. So let's start with probably a PhD student, then we'll go to a master student. Probably we'll be able to have complementary insight. I will first direct my question to Victory, right? Victory, can I ask you what motivated you to pursue your graduate school studies in the United States? How did you decide on the program and the school and all? Please, can you share to us? Probably we can also benefit from that.
Thank you very much, Ibrahim. So from my own personal experience, it was actually something I had the chance to discuss with my undergrad supervisor. Can you hear me?
Yes, but we will appreciate if you can just be more audible.
Okay, perfect. I was just trying to confirm if you can hear me very well. Is it better now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, for me, it was something I had the chance to discuss with my undergrad supervisor, but I know like for most people, they probably don't get that chance. So it was actually the first person that actually discussed to me about it. and actually like put me onto someone who could actually help me through that process. So for me, I think it's different from what most people, because I thought about it, but I wasn't super focused on it until myself and the man started like having the discussion, and it was actually like trying to like push me on it. And then I actually did more research and thought more about it, and I decided I should go for it. So,
Thank you very much.
and sorry.
Okay, please go on, please.
Yeah.
Sorry for cutting you short.
Yeah. So it was the one that put me on the idea. And also he was also able to connect me with someone who also guided me through the process. So that actually helped me a whole lot when I had to like, because I wasn't starting from scratch. I had someone who had done it before and they could guide me on the process. So that was what actually helped me when I was trying to figure out for my process.
All right. Thank you very much. Damilola, do you want to, sorry for startling you. All right. All right. Sorry. Like, do you want to share how choose your program as a pharmacy, someone from a pharmacy background who's currently doing MPH, MBA,
Yeah.
What influenced your decision and thoughts, and how did you get to the US, right? So
Right. Thank you, Ibrahim. Can you hear me?
yes.
Okay. So my story is quite different because I mean, I studied pharmacy, but I knew that I did not want to work in the lab. And you know, after graduating from pharmacy school, I worked as an hospital pharmacist, and I also worked in clinical trials and regulatory affairs. And I would say that was like what showed me the business side of things. So I knew that I wanted to like combine the knowledge, the science knowledge with the business knowledge, in that I was thinking about things like leadership, operations, and ensuring that whatever impact I had, whatever solution I had like strong impact. So for me, that was why it just made sense for me to do like an MBA and an MPH. And what other school do I do it other than the number one school of public health in the United States, Johns Hopkins, and they have like an MBA program whereby it's just like one of the top programs for the business of healthcare, which is like what I'm very interested in. And I would say that was like what framed my decision-making process.
All right. Thank you. So basically now, from what I can pick now, so one can get direction from your supervisor, and you can also relate it to your interests. I would ask this from Marvellous, right? Marvellous, since you might share your own story as how you arrived at the decision to study in the United States and picking your programs, especially going for master's program, right? But what do you think? Can you just share your story and add more context into how African students, I mean, coming from our background that have a different educational system and opportunities from United States. So how do you think African students who want to apply to grad school in the United States, how do you think we can, move through the process of searching for the right schools and the program? Marvellous.
Okay, yeah, thank you. And yeah, so my own was I got a job my undergrad was in microbiology. So I got a job as an environmental microbiologist in a company in Port Harcourt. And I was pretty comfortable with the job at that time. But a friend of mine just called me. I was like, you know what? Your profile is good enough for this. So you should try to apply for grad school. And prior to that, I went for a coaching session concerning grad school, but it was so discouraging, and there was no one to guide me like one-on-one through the process. So it was really difficult for me to be able to put something together. So I just gave up on it until that friend of mine told me, let's do this, we can do this together. So we did it, we submitted application, and yeah, I got in. But now connecting my story to to other African students, I think the opening point for me was through my undergrad research project. My research was on bioelectricity production from wastewater using microbial fuel cell. So when this friend of mine told me that let's start working, I didn't even know what school to start from. There are like 200 known schools in the US, right? So where do I start from? But I remember that when I was doing my research, there was this professor that was really good in the research I was working on. He works on a lot of microbial fuel cell for bioelectricity production. So I searched for him on ResearchGate. I read all his papers and I discovered I was in Pennsylvania State University. But it was a professor in environmental engineering, and my background was in microbiology, so I don't have the engineering component to it. So I knew that I would not be considered as a candidate for that. But instead of focusing on microbiology, I realized that their microbiology was more on the medical side and environmental microbiologies. So I decided to look for other programs. And that's one thing I'm going to advise everyone that is planning to apply for grad school. Don't just focus on what you study in your undergrad, because sometimes you're like, oh, I study microbiology, so I must apply for microbiology in my grad school. But what I did was I looked for all other professors that also does something similar to what I did. So I found this professor, Ali Dimitri. He was in agricultural and biological engineering. And there is also engineering component to that, but I decided to shoot my shot. I sent him an email and he told me, oh, he doesn't have funding for me, but he really loved my background. And I tell you, what I sent to him was packaging, because I packaged my research, my current work. I mentioned all the equipment we have in the company, even the ones I'm not really good at. I mentioned all of them. And he said, oh, wow, you have a very good profile. I don't have funding, but I can refer you to someone that is willing to accept you. And he referred me to my current advisor. And she was really excited. She said, I just got one of these equipment in my lab and I need someone to work on it. So we had the interview and yeah, that was how I got in. And when I got in, okay, when she indicated interest in me, I started learning about the equipment because I wasn't very good with it. So I learned a lot about it. And so yeah, that was how it happened. Then she took me in as a master's student. I finished my master's program and now I'm doing a PhD in the same department under the same advisor. So that was how I chose my school. It's basically just connecting on my research to the right professors and looking for what works. So yeah.
Thank you very much. That was quite insightful. Paul, I would like you to share your own story on how you got into your program in cancers biology, and but briefly, can you just tell us how was it this series of going from one person to another, or was it just straightforward? Like, did you get into after asking just, or did you send code email or what? And do you find it challenging? Just let us just know. Can you share broader context about that?
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. I would first like to kind of add more to what Marvellous says, that you shouldn't just focus on what you studied in your undergrad. For me as well, I studied microbiology as my undergraduate degree, but now I'm doing cancer cell biology as a PhD program. So you can always switch from one what you studied initially as a foundation, and then move forward to a different path depending on your interest and depending on available opportunities. So for me, I would say what made me to consider studying in the US was the fact that I saw that a couple of friends and colleagues are getting into programs in the US, and I saw that some of them have similar profile as myself, some higher, some maybe lower than myself, and some at my level, and they were able to get opportunities in the US for PhD programs. So that was one of the motivations for me applying to programs in the US. And the entire process was challenging because I had to start writing code emails to professors. Some of them would respond, some would not respond, and I kind of switched strategy when it got to a point I was reaching out to professors, and some of them were asking for more research experience and things like that. I decided to focus on programs that would not necessarily have me to reach out to professors, like programs that are like umbrella programs that you just apply directly to the program, and then when you are considered for admission, you get interviewed and things like that, and then you'll be given admission. So I kind of switched from just reaching out to professors like randomly to focusing on programs that would allow me to apply to an umbrella program, so that when I come in from there, I would do rotations and then select the lab that I would eventually settle in.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. Well, so what I can guess now is that there are so many ways that leads into this market, right? So it's like you can come in from different angle, regardless. Sometimes you can even switch backgrounds. All right. Victor Lagunju, as a PhD student who has been in the United States since 2022, how would you summarize this? Like for an African student that wants to start, let's say today, like what do you think they should do? I mean, in selecting the right school and program for themselves.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So I would say the first and most important thing would be to do a whole lot of research. Because I've had the experience where I would talk to people and then I would tell them like, oh, like you have to go look for this. But most people don't want to like do a whole lot of research. They were just like you hand over things to them. But in most cases, each individual experience is usually different. So the more research you can do by yourself would actually help you. So I was going to build on what Paul said earlier, why some of the schools would require a lot of research experience and why some of the other schools would probably like you can apply in and you can come in. Because that was the way my program went. Because I also had a similar thing where I had some research experience, but since some of the research in Nigeria might also like not necessarily translate. So it was later the guy that I said was putting me through was one that told me like, oh, I should, instead of looking, because it was telling me to go in a different direction before of like code emailing professors. So it was later I told me, okay, if you can do this, then you have to go research about all the available schools that you probably don't have to like necessarily have someone to work in. You can just like apply to the program you get in and then you can choose an advisor later. So it was the one that had to like put me on that path. And then I see also how to like go, because again, most of this information will not necessarily be like on a single website where you can just go and like they tell you like, oh, this is this. In most cases, you'd have to like go to the school's website, go to the program website, like read information about them, check like what their program requirement is. And in most cases, I feel like most people don't want to like do that level of in-depth research. But for the most part, that's all you need, because the more information you have, even if you have to like code email a professor or just have to like narrow down the number of schools you're trying to apply to, the more research you do, the more better your judgment is and the more options you'd have down the line. So I would say my one advice would be to do a whole lot of research, as much information as you can get from the school's website, from people you know, like any information you can get, just get as much information as you can, because I feel like the information is like the main thing. Thank you.
That was quite insightful. All right, and it's really did a great job in summarizing what everyone has said, right? Because when it seems like the parts can be individualized, right? So, and if one must be ready to really look for the information that will really help them in their whole situation. All right, so I'll move on to the next topic now. So, right, writing is the SOP. How do we stand out when writing the SOP? All right. So I would like to ask Damilola. Damilola, in your MPH program, how did you articulate your strengths, and experiences and background to make this thing work? What did you mention in your background? What did you articulate that make it, as someone who was transitioning from person's related health background, how did you articulate your stance, and what should a prospective applicant, what should they also consider I think you can learn from your story?
Okay. I think the first thing I would say would be that, I mean, I know that a lot of people pay people to like write their SOPs and personal statements, but that would not work because nobody knows you, nobody knows your own story. So the first thing I did was I told my own original, genuine story. I started off with, why did I decide to study pharmacy to start with? Then what did I do? What were the leadership roles I took while I worked as a pharmacist? What were the gaps that I noticed? What were the public health gaps that I noticed as a pharmacist? And what kind of difference do I want to make in the future? I think that another thing that I also, it's important to, like I said, write your own story. What else would I think it's very important to do in writing your SOP? Also make it very clear where you think you want to go in the future. Don't be very specific. Okay, I want to contribute towards efforts to ensure that Africans have access to safe and effective medicines. What are the things that you're doing currently that shows that you really want to do that? You could take some courses, include some courses that you've taken or some leadership, projects that you've done. Just tell your own genuine story because they don't know you. And the only thing they're going to see that and make their final decision, one of the things that they will see and they'll make their decision based on would be your SOP, your personal statement, your personal story. It's going to tell them everything about you without you saying a word. Because if they look at your resume, they will see like your academic achievements, but your SOP gives them an opportunity to see you as a person and the kind of impact that you want to make in the world. So I think that I did a great job explaining where I'm coming from, where I am now, and where I think I want to go in the future. For now, those are the things I think that are very important to include in your SOP.
All right. Thank you very much. Marvellous. Right. As someone who was, referred and you had to, refine yourself and all, you had your interview even before you applied, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So when you were doing your application proper, as someone who has had a green light from a potential advisor, right? So how did you, convince the admission committee that, okay, no, despite the fact that this person is saying I can come in, I also demonstrated the fact that I'm a good fit for this school and all. So can you tell us how you approached your SOP writing? How did you communicate everything, tied your story together?
Yeah, I agree with what, sorry, I'm echoing. I agree with what Damilola said. So how I started my SOP by addressing a common issue. So I've already gone through my professor's research and I know exactly what she was working on. So I looked for a problem that is related to our research, and that was what I started with. So I built the story into my own story. Our research is mostly on biorenewables and biofuels. So I picked the issue of oil spillage in South Nigeria, and I just focused on that what if there's an alternative to the use of oil? What if we can get something that biodegrades in the environment? So that was what I used to start my SOP. And from that, I built it into my own interest, my own experience, my work experience, and all the research I've done in the past, the courses I've taken outside my undergrad, and my volunteer experience. And that's just something I'm going to talk about. That to be able to build SOP has to sell you. You're selling yourself. So you have to build yourself so that you have something to sell. And since stuff you can do to build yourself can include volunteering experiences, like volunteer for things, do partake in all this cleaning of the environment. It's something that will fit into the sustainability. Partake in waste, partake in anything that you know will be able to sell your desire, your interest better. And that was something I did. In fact, I also mentioned the the items we gave during COVID-19, I mentioned it in my SOP. But the important thing is I was able to link everything together, because you don't want something that is abstract appearing on your SOP. So I was able to link my story, my initial story, with my academic experience, my research, and my work experience, and every other extracurricular activities that can build it up. And one warning I'm going to give is, don't use AI. Don't use AI, because it's becoming so common now that everybody is using AI to write their SOP. AI, somehow AI always sound the same. If I pick up AI and I tell it to write a strong SOP for me, it's going to write it in a certain way. As a microbiologist, I desire to blah 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 blah. Then someone else will come again and say, as a biochemist, as a this, like, the formatting is always the same. You can use AI to correct your That's what people want to hear. And also, there are a lot of unnecessary information that is also being included in the SOP that doesn't really matter. The main thing is that your whole story should be able to link, and it should lead to the reason why you want to pursue this grad school. And at the end of the day, you can also link it to SDG, Sustainable Development Goals. It has a lot of them. So you can pick the ones that make sense to you the most, the one that works with you, to mention it that that's your end goal. And at the end too, I mentioned what the school will gain from me by picking me as a student. So I know that I'm coming here to learn. What will I give to you guys? If I succeed in life, just my name alone is a good deal for you, right? So just sell yourself. That's my main point.
All right. Thank you very much. That was detailed. I like the fact that you corroborated what Damilola started about, telling your original story and how you went about, selling our voice to AI in communication, because it doesn't. I think it's even worse than the third party person, because it's not even human, so it's probably going to frame it in, as has been coded. All right. Paul, any tips for us now? Uh, Marvellous and Damilola have told us to tell our original story, right? Personal story and all. But how do we strike this balance, about the intellectual content that convince a grad school? You say we are talking to professors, right? So how do we balance this storytelling with academic content that really weighs, that communicates, okay, you are a grad level student? Any tips that you can share?
Okay, so what I would say in addition to what has been said is be specific as much as possible. Don't be generic. Like one of the issues that people normally encounter when trying to write SOP is that they are very generic. Um, when you write an SOP, you should write it in such a way that when it is being read, it stands out from the crowd. People can read your SOP and then they remember you later on when they read other people's SOP. It can give them a remembrance of you such that they will be able to select you among the pool of candidates that are competing. Because these opportunities that we are competing for is a global one. So we have people from different parts of the world, people who are citizens of the United States also competing for these available positions. So we should make our SOP to stand out such that we are remembered and we can be selected. And how can we, and how is it done? You highlight, maybe for instance, you are highlighting a problem that you are addressing or you want to solve. You go into details about the problem, what you've done in the past, your contribution to addressing that problem, and what you envisage doing with the research that you want to do in that institution. And and you can mention a few professors in that institution that are doing something related that you hope to work with, and maybe one or two facilities in the institution as well that you hope to utilize for your research. So that specificity would help stand you out from the crowd, rather than just saying, okay, you want to do this to achieve this goal, like just generic statements. Being specific, being detailed as much as possible. For instance, maybe you want to report your what you've done in the past in terms of your research. What you can do is give us the topic of the research, maybe the research you did in your undergrad, mention the topic, mention the methodology you used, some of the key findings that you observed in the research, and maybe one or two lessons, one or two skills that you learned from the research as well. So these things being highlighted would show potential to the prospective supervisor or the admissions committee that are reviewing your SOP.
All right. Thank you very much. I picked the word specificity, specific problems, specific solutions, specific observations, specific skills, specific things learned, specific lessons I will pick. So the more we are specific about what we are discussing, so the more, the more original it sounds, right? Thank you very much for that tip. So I believe we all noted that specificity is the way to go when we are writing that. Damilola, you want to add
Sorry,
something?
one minute. I just want to
Okay.
just add this. Okay, sorry.
All right. Of course, add
Just,
go on, go on.
Paul,
Of
please
course,
go ahead.
go on.
okay, just for balance. Yeah, as I mentioned, specificity. It also depends on either you are applying to maybe directly to get a code emailing a professor, or you're applying to an umbrella program. If you're applying to an umbrella program, yes, you should be specific in certain aspects of your SOP, but you should also be flexible in a way that if, for instance, a particular that's where mentioning two or three professors or their research and how it aligns to your profile. So why this specific so also show some flexibility in terms of if this professor is not interested in you, another professor might pick up your SOP and then be interested in you. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you. Damilola, you have
Yeah.
the floor now.
Yeah, I
Make
think
it
something
brief.
does dropped in my mind, and it was the fact that I know that as Nigerians and as African students, we're taught to really like play small and just like normalize the amazing things that we do in our regular day-to-day, like 9 to 5 jobs or whatever. But it's important that we learn how to like brag about the things that we do. Tell your own story confidently. Like, don't be like, oh, I just manage a team of 5 people, or you just say like, oh, I worked in supply chain. A better thing that you could have said was that you say, oh, I was able to identify inefficiencies, for example, in the clinical trial supply chain, and help to, reduce late deliveries by a particular amount. Like, don't just say, oh, I worked in supply chain. That doesn't nobody understands what that means. But when you are specific about the impact that you've currently made in your small space, then they will know that you have like a potential to actually like make greater impacts when you have that room. But it's important that we don't just play small and just make the things that we do seem like it's just normal or it's just an everyday thing. If you don't say these things for yourself, no other person is going to do it. So you need to like do that. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, that's what I'm trying to
Yes, I
communicate.
understand. So, like I like that. So Paul, like you said, strike a balance while being specific. Don't box yourself to a corner, and of course, don't play small. All right. So lesson well learned. All right. So let's move on to another core aspect of this conversation. Funding and scholarships. Graduate school can be expensive, right? So firstly, what's your advice for African students, seeking fully funded positions? I will direct this question to Victory. If you're Gunju, you're a fully funded PhD student. So how do you think we can get funded? Especially in this current paradigm, with Trump cutting funding and everything, the current financial atmosphere in the United States. What do you think African students can do to secure fully funded positions? Victory, you on the call?
Yes. So
yes, thank you.
I think I would start from so the first thing is, for the most part, the fundings are like very competitive. So there's a whole lot of people like fighting to get the same money you also want to get. So I think it ties back to like the previous point of just one, trying to like, maybe when you're writing your SOP during the interview, just trying to show them that you have something of value that they can actually get from me. Because if I know I can get something from someone, then I wouldn't mind like investing in the person, because it's more like an investment. So if you show them like you're valuable to them through like your experiences, what you write in your SOP, and when you also have the interview, it gives you a better edge of they wanting to actually want to invest in you. So I would say that would be the first thing, trying to be a person of value, showing them you can actually offer value to them. And then for the second thing, which sort of ties to the first, is also like for some of the science program, you would typically either you can do the umbrella program where like you get in and then you may have to work like as a teaching assistant, which is also fine, because as long as you don't have to pay the tuition and you also get something to like maintain yourself, you can also go the teaching assistant route, trying to like work as a TA. So like if you can find schools that would actually like give you the research position, you can actually focus on also schools that would actually give you a teaching position, which down the line also helps you, depends on what you want to do. So you can actually focus on school that would also give you teaching positions, pending when you can get like a research position. So that wouldn't limit you, because if you're trying to focus on just being like the RA thing, like the research money alone, like there might be opportunities for you to like actually like work or like get an opportunity as a teaching assistant. And then that way, like the main point is you don't want to spend your own money. So you might want to like divert from, if the RA isn't working, you might want to go like down the TA path and look for schools that would actually take you in as a TA first. And then pending when you figure out the research position. Then the last thing I would probably say is also talking to people. So one thing I've also seen is for some parts, when you talk to people, so because I've known people who came on like they're like partially funded, they didn't get the full funding. But just from talking to people, and in most cases, the people like in that school. So let's say I'm applying to a particular school, maybe I got an offer for like the partial funding. I can maybe go on LinkedIn, try to reach out to people, talk to people. Hey, okay, this is what I have. This is my situation. In most cases, people that are there already, they might know like about like some sort of fellowship, some sort of scholarship that you probably wouldn't get like the information about. So just talking to people and letting them know, oh, okay, this is the situation I have. Maybe I got like some partial funding. I'm trying to like get money to like offset it. Number one, they may have like some opportunities somewhere on campus or some sort of fellowship that they know you would be qualified for. So I would say talking to people, trying to be of value and looking beyond, because for science, for the most part, you want to do research, but also looking beyond the research point and also trying to see some cases, it might also be administrative positions. But the point is, as long as you're going to get paid to do the work and you don't have to like pay out of pocket, it's still a win. So that would be the things I would say you can also just look forward to.
Oh, all right. Damilola. All right. So I would like to ask this. Your program, is it fully funded?
No, my program is not fully funded.
Okay. So how did you navigate the, getting the remaining part of the money? And before you answer, please, I would like to also know your thoughts. Right now, for example, if you are coming from a country like Nigeria, so I know people are joining from other African countries, but a particular situation, a peculiar situation with Nigerian currency now is the heavy devaluation or the high, exchange rates, the forex rates of naira to dollar, which has really impacted how people. So that, in fact, when people get fully funded positions, even the process of getting a visa, flight, and everything still poses to be a problem, right? So these are challenges. So if someone gets a partially funded program, that kind of thing, that might even prove extra difficult at all. So what advice do you have for people starting out this application process to consider when when getting on this program, as someone who navigated having to source for the remaining aspect of the financial aspect of the program? So what advice do you have for us as the financial aspect?
So, okay, I'm thinking about how best to answer this question. Okay, so for me, right, like I said, I did not get a fully funded opportunity. I think it's closely because, you know, I'm doing a dual master's degree program that is very competitive. And, you know, say, for example, the MPH class is about 300 students, but the MPH MBA class is like 18 or 15 students all over the world. So it's very competitive. But then I did get like very significant and very, you know, it was one of like the highest like funding that anybody got. So now talking about having to navigate finding the rest of the money, I think one thing is just that, like, just be willing to take a bet on yourself and know that you need to like invest in your own future. I know that for people that are in very scientific programs, they're very lucky to have like fully funded opportunities because they are actively like doing research. But with an MBA program that's very like professional, like work related, I mean, I would say the possibility of getting full funding for that is like very low. But it happens. But definitely there's always like something that you're gonna lose, like you're giving something in exchange for something else. Say you want the highly ranked school, you know, you may not get full funding. But if you're going for a low ranked school, then you may get full funding. But then the payoff or the trade-offs would then be that, you know, when it's time for like job search, you need to do extra. Yeah, like you need to do a lot of, I'm going to speak Yoruba. You're going to do a lot of shalaye because they're going to be like, oh, why should we come to your school when we can always go to these highly ranked schools? Because ranking does matter a whole lot. And I'm not just saying this because, oh, I read it somewhere. I know this deeply. So, you know, I would say that there are trade-offs. So just be willing to, you know, take a bet on yourself. And yeah, that's what I would say. Yeah, other things I would also say is that as women, you know, there are many scholarships that are available for women. There's the International PO scholarship that gives you up to like 10,000 or 12,000 US dollars per year that you can add to your school fees. There's also the Forte scholarship for women that want to do MBA programs. So it's important that you understand the advantage that you have, you know, in that, for example, you're a woman, and then there are many scholarships that are tailored towards women. So you need to apply for those ones, and don't just apply anyhow, like tell a very strong story. Let them read your story and decide that, okay, this is somebody that we want to be associated with. This is somebody that we want to say that, okay, this is a Forte fellow, this is a PEO fellow. I mean, I have a lot of classmates that have that PEO scholarship. What else can I say? I mean, did I answer all of your questions? I'm really saying all of these things from my head.
Yes. Basically,
there's
that was quite original actually, and I deeply appreciate it
forgive me.
because it comes from I see that it's a common problem right now. You know, like I said, the financial aspect, it's very important. But you hit the nail on the head when you said, firstly, be ready to invest in your own future. All right. And then after that, you now seek help. So that means it's going to cost you some money and be ready to give it up, right? Especially if you are going for a professional program. Paul, I would just like you to
Exactly. And I want to add one thing. And I would like to say that like the return on investment on an MBA for an MBA is very significant. So you may need to like put in some money, but you'll be getting more money back. So it's, I don't know. That's what I think.
Yeah, thank you very much. Right. Paul, can you help us shape this as someone who applied to can I say an open program, just like you said, right? I've forgotten the term you used to describe it,
An
where
umbrella
you don't
program.
have to secure. What do you call
An umbrella program.
an umbrella program, right? So in which you are to go in first, you know, then you provide all you present your profile, argue your case that you are worthy of admission and as well as funding. So what do you think one can add to one's profile that would ensure that someone gets gets admission and gets funded in a STEM program?
Okay, so some of the things I think one can add to one's profile is research experience. That's number one thing. If you have strong research experience, then the chances of getting admitted into multiple schools increases if you have teaching experience as well. Like Victory said, you can be offered teaching assistantship position. And then if you have like a strong profile, maybe you've done online courses, you've done volunteer experiences and things like that. Those are things that can improve your chances of getting multiple offers. But one thing I would say is that I would like to like should I say differ based on what Damilola said, where she's speaking based on her perspective as someone doing a professional degree. But I think for a PhD, you can be strategic in the choice of your school. You can, choose multiple schools across different tiers, highly ranked schools, middle schools, low schools, depending on what you want. And, that would increase your chances of getting admitted because once you get into a PhD is a PhD. So, and it depends on what you do in that program. That would be what will stand you out. The skills you're able to get from the program, the experiences, the publications, and all of those things that you get in the course of your PhD that will stand you out in when you're out of when you graduate and you're looking for jobs. So I think you should not just box yourself up in terms of just choosing highly ranked schools alone. You can spread your tentacles, highly ranked schools, middle tier schools, and maybe some schools that are not too low, but schools that you are sure that you get into. And with that, you'll be able to increase your chances of getting admission with funding because uh, getting admission is not too difficult. It's the funding aspect that is most times the challenge. So I think with this, you'll be able to improve your chances. One will be able to improve the chances of getting admission with funding.
All right. So yes, thank you. Marvelous. Yes. Yes, I know you have a perspective to share about this. Right. My next question, which we are going on, is actually coming to you as well. So don't worry, you can share that perspective when I ask you this question. So you just take the two together. But we would like to move on to a key aspect now. It's recommenders later, but you can make reference to the funding aspect anyway. Marvelous. Right, my question for you now about recommenders later. From your story, I can get you have a very inspiring undergraduate supervisor. I mean, someone who was working on biofuels, who would build from their story into your story and all and all. So what strategies did you use to get strong letter from such a person? Was it part of your recommender? And what strategy do you think a prospective applicant can use to get strong letters from referees?
Okay,
Marvelous.
about the funding, I just want to say that, moving out from Nigeria, there are a lot of factors that are surrounding that. You want to consider your visa as well. And visa for those that are not fully funded is very, very tricky. So if you have admission from a lower school that is fully funded and you have a good research and a good advisor, or you're sure of what you're getting out from it, then why not? Because you have to consider visa and other things too. But yes, the Damilola also made a lot of good points. Like the school also really, really matters. Yes, it does. But your research matters, your funding matters, the professor matters. A lot of other things also matters. Then regarding recommendation letters, I heard something last week that I didn't know was possible. And it's worth sharing. If it's something you can try out, then fine. This person said that he reached out to a professor in the school he was going to, and he had a lot of discussion with this professor. And he asked the professor to write a recommendation letter for him. And that is actually a very big deal. That's really, really good. If you can get a professor in the school to stand in for you, that would be great. But it's the first time I'm hearing that happen. So you can try it. If it works for you, good, great, in fact. But if it doesn't, then you have to go back to your professors in Nigeria. I just hope that you have you have good rapport with them. And see, guys, the best thing is write your recommendation letters yourself. I hope there is no Imbo on this meeting. I hope there is no anyone from the US here. But you cannot you cannot sell. I mean, your professors cannot sell you the way you can sell yourself. So if you can, in fact, if you cannot write it for them, then fine, give them suggestions. And please insist that they should write it the way you want them to write it. Because I've seen professors that write like one, two sentences, and it's really sad because you see recommendation letter from US students and you see like two, 3 pages. They are selling their students, but our own professor will just give 2 sentences. They'll say, I worked with this student and she's great, she's excellent, she will be good for your department. Give her that. I recommend her. And they sent that. That's not fair for us because we do the work, we put in the effort. If you can succeed in a school in a university in Nigeria, you can succeed anywhere. But our professors, they don't sell us enough, and this affects a lot of admissions and applications into the US school. I just talked to my friend and she held this coaching session for our group, and one of them, the guy got admission into I mean, he had a very good application into my school, but it was denied. And they told him to reach out to the school to ask why it was denied, and they told him that one of his recommendation letters was not good enough. Just imagine, this guy had first class, he had papers, he had everything that could give him a good the admission, but just because the professor was not ready to put in the work for him. So I'll tell you, insist, call this professor, go to their office, beg them, type it for them. In fact, use their laptop and tell them, this is what I want you to send. It depends on how you relate with the professor as well. But you have to, it is your life, right? You have to be able to convince them, to let them see the importance of the letters, because recommendation letters on its own, it has its own score on your application. That's the fact. It has, if they ask for 2 recommendation letters, then those two must be able to give you 100% in that aspect. And if they ask for three, the three must be able to give you 100% in that aspect. So I will advise everyone to list out your strengths for these advisors, I mean for your professors. Reach out, write out your strengths, send in your CV, write out details. If it's the professor that worked with you on your research, then highlight the skills you learned from this research. Highlight it, give it to them, let them sell you. Also, when students are writing recommendation letter for themselves, they use some words that are not really, it will be so obvious that this person is not a professor, right? Because some students will start writing, oh, she's excellent in her job, she does the best job, she's the best student in the, you don't need to oversell yourself again. I know that I've been emphasizing on selling yourself, but you have to calm down. State the facts. What did you do in your research? How did it benefit the community? How did it benefit your school? How did your researcher, how did your professor see your work? Like things like that. Even in your academics, how were you able to handle the pressure that came with maybe funding your school yourself, or working in the I mean working and studying at the same time? How did you handle? Those are the things you should mention. Don't start using unnecessary words just to make yourself look good. You're not making yourself look good. You are making yourself look professional, and you're making yourself look the best for the job. So, and also make sure that wherever you're writing or wherever you're suggesting to your recommender to be something that the department wants. So read the website and make sure that it's correlates. So yeah.
Thank you very much. That was detailed. I like how you balanced it, right? So from stepping into the process yourself, like if it requires to, so that they can sell you efficiently, and not overdoing it so much that you you eventually blowing it up. Victory, what advice do you have for us, especially in African context, in getting recommendation letters? Because I heard from people that they submitted like 21 applications. I do ask, how did you get recommenders to submit 21 letters? Like, so I want to know, probably those people know some hacks that we don't know, because probably for you to get 5 for some people, they'll tell you that I'm tired already, right? So I want to know like, are there strategies to, get strong recommendation letters from our African supervisors? Victory.
Yeah. I think the one thing that I might say from my perspective, which might be the most important thing, would be trying to have like a good relationship with, because it's a long game. Let's say I'm doing like undergrad now, or like I'm doing a master's, and I'm like, oh, like I plan to apply with a PhD. I can try to like start pressing the button from now. Because, so let's say I'm gonna like give my professor a draft to work on, right? If I don't have a good interaction with the person already, like there's no way that's gonna work. Two, if I'm going to apply to a whole bunch of schools, if the person doesn't see me as useful for them, they wouldn't want to go the extra mile for me. Because technically they don't owe me anything. So I feel like just trying to build that good, again, some of them might not be the best people, but you just have to try and just have a good relationship with them as much as you can and as much as lies with you. Because I feel like everything they would do for you, if they would let you draft it for them. Because again, I've heard someone who wanted to give a draft, and then the man was like, no, like he was going to write what he wants to write. And I was like, it's better I just don't use the person. So I feel having a good relationship with them in the first place will go along with just trying to build the relationship with them. I feel like it's the main thing, because that will go downstream of they being open to like even letting you like list the things you think the people want to like read on the recommendation. So I think having a good relationship, basically, I think it's a major thing that would go down the line for every other thing.
Thank you very much, Victoria. I think you really gave a complimentary perspective to what Marvellous said, because you can't influence their writing process if you don't have that good relationship. So I think you really complimented what she said. Damilola, can you make it brief?
I'm sorry for raising my hands up all the time, but I want to build on the point that Victory and Marvellous made. So I think that one mistake that people make is that they think they should just go for the big names. Oh, this person is this. But I think it's important to find balance, find people that know you very well. And, if possible, if they also have like big names and they are well known in that particular field, that would also be nice. I'm going to share my own personal story in that I applied to a dual degree program, an MPH and an MBA program. So for me, it was important that I got recommenders that could speak about my research and science skills and my business skills. So I got like my boss at work to talk about my work skills, the ways I've contributed, significantly to projects that we have. And I also got my undergrad supervisor, who I think is very amazing to write. But another thing that I think I'll also build on what Marvellous said, and play devil's advocate in that sometimes it's not because this professors don't want to write you an amazing thing, but they may not even remember you. And that's why you need to remind them about who you are. Sorry. But you need to remind them about who you are, the times that, maybe you answered questions in class, or one particular time when you had a very high grade in class and they said, oh, I want to clap for this person who had this great score. Like you can also attach maybe like your transcripts so that they know that you're an all-round excellent student, because like nobody wants to like be associated with somebody that's going to like embarrass them. So you need to remind them that you're amazing, you've done well in this, you've done well in that. Just bring to their memory all the times that you were amazing. Then it'll be easy for them to actually say, okay, yes, I'm going to write for you. Now, in my case, I actually wrote out stuff that I wanted them to write. And when I remember that when I shared it with one of my recommenders, she was like, Dami, this is perfect, because this is exactly what I would write about you. I wasn't going to go and write, oh, I'm the best clinical critical. No. I wrote the truth. This is how we met. This is this. And she said, this is exactly what I was going to write about you. And I think it was very good. So it's important to not just look for the big names, like I said, look for people that really know you and can vouch for you and can, put their neck on the line for you. Basically, that's just what I wanted to add to the conversation.
Yeah, thank you very much. So let's quickly move on. So let's talk about this Paul. So what do you say, I mean, to application deadline, application timelines? I think we are in August, right? So summer is gradually fading away. The fall is about to start. So I think we are entering the application season very soon. So what advice do you have for prospective applicants in managing timelines and deadlines? What are conceptions that you think or what are traps, right, that we need to watch out for and all? So please, can you please give us advice on that?
Okay, so first, I would just like to chip in a little bit about the recommendation letters, and it ties to the application timeline and deadline. Because one issue that we normally have with recommenders is that sometimes they don't respond early to submitting the recommendation letter. So I think you should give them enough time ahead regarding your application. Carry them along when you're applying. Carry them along. Let them know when the deadlines are, when they are required to turn in the recommendation letter, so that they can submit at the right time, and just follow up on them until they do the right thing of submitting the recommendation letter. Because sometimes people would apply and then be waiting on a particular recommender to submit the recommendation letter, and that may be what would determine the fate of the application. So another thing I would say is have multiple recommenders. Like instead of maybe your program needs 4, you can have like 5 people on ground that you can know that at least out of these 5 people, you're sure of getting 3 persons able to submit your recommendation letter for you, and then you get what you need. So that is what I would say in that regard. But in terms of application timelines and deadlines, different schools have their different application deadlines. Most schools, I think, for STEM related, I think it's usually either December 1 or December 15 or maybe January 1. So for the application deadline for most schools. So you start gathering all the necessary materials you need right now. You should be in the heat of applying at the moment, it's of getting all the necessary information, necessary documents, and preparing to submit the application. I mean, contacting your recommenders, letting them know of the schools you're applying. I think by now or in few weeks from now, you should have a list of the schools that you're applying for. Usually, I would recommend maybe between 10 to 12 schools. I think that should be like the average you should think of doing. I wouldn't suggest doing maybe like 15 or 20, or that would be excessive, except you have the stamina and then you have the um the backup in terms of your recommenders to go that number. But within 7 to 12, I think is a reasonable number. At least with having 5 people or 4 people, you should be able to get maybe like 3 or 4 from each of the recommenders to submit for your application. So having that in mind, target your schools, start gathering all the necessary information you need, gathering the necessary documents, your CV, your SOP. And one thing I would say is try to ensure that you tailor your SOP to each application. Most time people use the same SOP for multiple schools, which is wrong, because uh, across different schools, you might be applying to different programs. They may be related, but they may be different. There may be some specifics regarding a particular school or a particular program. So you should have maybe a template or a draft SOP, but you should tweak that and tailor that to each of the schools that you're applying for. So having that in mind, that would give you the idea of when you should apply to which school, when you should reach out to which professor, when you should submit what documents. So that's just what I would say in terms of application. I think right now is the best time to be on full force in terms of getting the necessary information in terms of starting applying to the different schools that you have chosen in your list.
Oh, all right. Thank you very much, Victory. So, what is there anything that someone can use in managing timelines and deadlines? I mean, as part of the tool that someone can, the tools that someone can use in managing all of this.
So one thing I was gonna add to what Paul said was also trying to like track, because again, some of the applications might be different. Like the deadlines, you might think you have it all figured out in your head, but in most cases, I would always advise people to like sort of like track everything using like an Excel sheet. So track every single thing, like track the dates where the deadlines are probably coming up, track the dates when the recommended are supposed to like turn it in. And in most cases, you might want to give like a week ahead of time. So let's say if something was probably due like on the 31st, I could probably like set a reminder on my phone to like make sure like I'm done with it on like 24th. Because that just gives me like enough time to like, if any like last minute mess up happens, I could even tell my recommender like, oh, this thing is due on 24th, just to make sure like they get everything in on time. So I think tracking everything, most likely an Excel sheet is always best. And one other thing I was gonna add is I had this thing where I did, and I've also like told people where, so let's say I know I'm applying for like 10 schools, right? I think I can still go above and beyond and sort of like research and like look for good information on like 20 schools. Because what that does down the line is that gives me enough leverage if I want to like filter out things. So let's say I search for like 20 schools, I have like 20 schools down. I know I'm only applying to like 10 or I'm applying to 8. If I have 20 schools down, I can now sit down, sort of like go over everything again, be like, oh, from the looks of things, looks like I might have more chances here compared to this place. So just trying to like have like excess buffer in terms of like times, in terms of like the schools you're applying to, just gives you enough, it gives you enough leverage to like filter things out like last minute and make sure like you don't run into like any last minute issues. So that's just what we had, just making sure to like keep track of things. Most times an Excel sheet works just fine because like Excel is like a living document. I mean like Google Sheets rather. It's like a living document. So like you can put it up from your phone, from a laptop. You don't have to like wait to get home before you work on things. Let's say you're outside, you can pull up a Google Sheet on your phone, like look for a school, you could go to the website, check some information, and put it down on the Excel sheet. And when you go home, it just syncs and then you can keep track of things. That's what I would advise.
Thank you very much. So Google Sheets will help, right? So, and if you're a Microsoft guy, probably you can link your OneDrive and use the same, right? Thank you very much. So let's move fast. I'd like to direct this question to Marvellous. You wrote GRE, right? You took the GRE, all right. Was it instrumental in part of your admission, in deciding your admission? And because you didn't mention the role, like it seems you have agreed with your supervisor. So, but if you took the GRE, so how did you work everything to match with your your application cycle and everything? How did you make everything work together?
Yes, I took the GRE, but I did not use it for my specific school. That's the school I am right now. I used it for one other school that I applied to. But luckily, a lot of schools have dropped GRE. I know there are still some schools that require that, but there are most schools have dropped GRE. So if you feel that you don't want to write the exam, you can look for schools that does not require GRE for the course you want to apply for. But if you want to write it, it is very intensive. It takes a lot of work. So it is also doable. And so yeah. Did I answer your question?
Thank you very much. You did. I think you from the background information that I have, you took the GRE. I just want to know if it was instrumental in part of your current admission.
Yeah,
Paul.
I took it and I used it for another school, but the
So
school did not even give me admission.
I get that. I get. Paul, you also took this. You took TOEFL, right?
Yeah, I took two.
Was it mandatory in your school? You know, like there's this popular notion that we do normally say that no, we students from Nigeria, English-speaking countries, we already have our proficiency and all. So was it a mandatory requirement that made you to take it, or you just took it as part of things to give you additional edge?
No, it wasn't a mandatory thing for my school. I took it as just to like increase my chances of getting admission. That was why I took the TOEFL, and just to apply to multiple schools. That was the idea of taking the TOEFL. But like Marvellous said, most schools now are dropping the standardized test, GRE, TOEFL, and all of that. But if you take it, it just gives you the chance of applying to more schools, and also if you have a good scores in this test, it can increase your chance of getting admission. It's just like an additional layer of evaluation of you as a candidate. So most schools are not requiring it these days, but if you take it, it's just like a plus to your admission profile.
Thank you very much.
And I would say the
Victory.
TOEFL is not a difficult it's not a difficult exam like the GRE. It's much easier. Since we've been taught English all through our life, so within 1 or 2 weeks, you should be ready to go for TOEFL.
Oh, all right. Thank you very much. Victory, during your time, did you just simply apply to schools that did not require the GRE, or you applied for a waiver or something?
Yeah, so for me, I specifically did not apply to schools that required it. So in like finding the schools, I knew I didn't want to like do the exams. Because again, I didn't have, when I started like seriously considering it, I didn't have the time, and I really didn't have the interest in like going, because I heard like it takes a toll on you, like it's difficult and everything, like for the GRE now. So I actually didn't want to like go through the stress. So when I was searching for schools, I specifically was looking for schools, like searching for information about schools that specifically did not require it. So all the schools I applied to, none of them required it, both the GRE and the IELTS. So I was specifically looking for those schools because I knew I didn't want to write it. So I didn't end up like writing any of the exams.
All right. So, Marvellous. So anyone that's prepared, that actually wants to take the GRE, what advice would you have for them? Short advice. Do you want to give someone, okay, who said, okay, probably they see a particular program and they're very interested, it has the GRE and they want to write it. So what advice would you give to them in preparing for that?
The best way to prepare for GRE is to join the classes that prepare for GRE and to get the materials, because you are writing the English aspect, the quantitative, the mathematics, the verbal, it's a lot. So the best thing, there's a guy on YouTube, his name is Greg Matt. He teaches a lot about GRE and is pretty good at that. So you can follow him up. We also have a section on his web. Now, I'm not selling him. I'm just mentioning that he does a good job. So you can use him. You can also check on Google for a lot of the materials, but those materials are not as detailed and they may not really help you to prepare for the exam. So the best thing is just to get the book directly from GRE and to join the classes online to prepare for it.
All right. Thank you very much. So let's move on. Settling in after admission. So because it's part of the, they said we should begin with the end in mind, right? So we can't leave out this aspect. So I would like to direct this question to Damilola first. So how was it? What's the transition like moving from Nigeria to John Hopkins?
Hey, Chiniki, it was very hard. Oh, sorry, I'm not supposed to say that. It wasn't the easiest thing, but I would say that, so I'm going to just share my personal story. So I think that it's important to, resolve issues around where you're going to stay before you actually leave Nigeria. That's pretty important. And it's also important to like reach out to people and find out, how things work here. For example, if you're applying to like business school, I know this doesn't apply because a lot of people here are doing PhDs and stuff, but you could reach out to like the African Business Club. Like, those are people like us, people from the African Business Club will be willing to, let you know, okay, this is where you can get cheap accommodation. This is how you can settle in. Sometimes they may even have like a program on ground for first year students that helps them to settle in very easily. But you won't know if you don't reach out to them. So that's like one key thing to note. yeah, for me, I think it was very difficult because the first few weeks that I spent here, uh, there were many jokes that they were cracking that I did not understand because I didn't understand the context. Like, okay, so why people laughing? So it was very difficult for me. I think that another thing was that even though like I had spoken English all my life, it was just different. And like there are different kinds of American accents. Americans from different places speak differently. So like if someone from California is speaking, like it's different. Or someone from Baltimore is speaking, it's different. So you have to just know how to listen and understand what they're saying carefully, and don't just like assume that this is what they're saying. Then like ask clarifying questions. Ask questions and be like, oh, is this what you mean? Do you mean you want me to do this? So that you don't, do the wrong things. Settling in includes accommodation or finding like a religious place you want to be in, church, or mosque or wherever it is the case might be for you. But like I said, reaching out to somebody in the maybe graduate student association, or in your African Believers Club or Black Graduate Student Association would really help you to know how to do these things. And also the schools usually have like some documents that helps students easily transition. They have documents that says, okay, these are the places where you can get houses from. This is where you can get food from. These are the things that we make available. So just, get in touch with your students' body to also know that. So I think that it's like I think the key message for me would just be reaching out to people to find out how things work and how you can fully integrate with things. The first few weeks might be very difficult, but you're strong and you can do it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Paul, I would like you to comment specifically on the aspect of visa, right?
Okay.
Because I think it's easy for people to gloss over that, but I think it's one key aspect. By the time you see people translate on how they almost pee on themselves on the day of visa interview and all those stuff. So can you help us just clarify that very briefly because we are running out of time now?
Okay, so concerning the visa, I would say that you should join groups like WhatsApp groups or other platforms where you can get information on securing dates, and where you can also get information of reading people's transcripts of those that have done the visa, those who have gone through the visa interview and reading their transcript and preparing. Then I would also say that you should do several mocks, like practice, do several mocks to like master what you're going to say when you get in front of the visa officer, because you can have full funding and you don't know what to say, and then you can get rejected. We've seen several examples, although it's less common, but fully funded people also get rejected at the embassy. So you knowing your story and you being able to convince the visa officer is very important. As much as you've gotten the funding, you should be able to tell your story and then convince the visa officer to give you the visa. And then one thing I would say is try to establish home ties. Uh, uh, let it not be obvious to them that okay, you want to use that as an opportunity to jackpot, like we would say. So let them know that okay, you intend to benefit your country. You just find a way of connecting it to your country, of how you want to benefit the country through that opportunity. So I would say join groups, WhatsApp groups where you can get information. And another challenge is, I don't know if it's still an issue, getting dates. It's usually difficult securing dates, but when you are on certain platforms, you can get relevant information on dates. One of such group is the ASF group. Um, so those groups, you can get information on when dates are available for visa interview, and then you can get transcripts of those who have done the visa interview, and then you can also be scheduled for various mock interviews so that you can practice on how you're going to tell your story before the visa officer.
Oh, all right. So I would just like someone to just comment briefly. Would like to move very fast into the Q&A section right now. So one thing, I just want someone to like, okay, was there something you feel you could, either if you were to be an applicant today, one thing you think you are going to start with, or one thing you are going to do better, or do differently? Victory. can you please just give that briefly? So once we move into the Q&A, so that we can wrap up.
Yeah, one thing I also wanted to chip in that I just remembered now is, I think there's a group called Education USA. I think you have to like apply to be like a part of them. But I've met different people that came through the Education USA. And one of the things I heard was, so for instance, like once you get admitted, the whole like trying to like settle in like the travel things, I believe they said like the Education USA group helps them with that. And also, even in looking for visa dates, I heard, again, this is what I heard from people because I'm not part of the group, but I also heard they said the Education USA group helps with that. So I think that might be like a very good platform to also like be a part of, because from what I heard, they help them with like, once you get like, even like get to the admission, and then once you get admission, like all the traveling process. I even heard someone, they said they help the person with flight money or something. So I think it's a very good group people might want to look up to. They help with like financials like before you travel, and then like even getting the visa, which is like a major thing. So I think people also want to look to the group.
Thank you very much. So let's move into the Q&A section now. I don't have access to the chat box things, but I can see Abdulbasit Hamza raising up his hand. I believe you have a question, right? Can you kindly unmute and ask your question?
Yes, I have a question, Mr. Ibrahim.
Please make it brief, please.
Yes, thank you so much to the Baswara team for this session, and thank you for the speakers sharing their, without reservations, their experiences. So I have a couple of questions actually. I think these are some of them are very, very important that I get clarity to, and maybe some of the listeners here. And the first one is sometimes we hear when you're writing your SOP, you try to you say what you bring to the program. And of course, as a student who's not from US, you are saying you are bringing diversity and one or two things. But I want you to please be specific and clarify what you really mean by what you bring to the program. Because I believe we are actually coming to learn. But of course, we have the only thing I don't know, maybe the major thing I hear about is diversity and all that. But what do you think we can include in our essays? That's one, two. And the other thing is when they say it seems as though one should have what one is going to study in the university. What would you say is significant? Is it significant to have a publication for a master's program? I mean, you're applying for a funded master's program or a PhD program. And is it a must-have for a master's program, especially if I thought it should be important for a PhD program? But what are your experiences from people you've seen, met, or yourself? And for a fresh final year student who is just yet to publish his project, which is publishable, what would you advise? I mean, for someone who wants to apply for, maybe he's currently about to finish final year and wants to apply for a master's program in the US or anywhere. And also, when you are messaging a professor, would you advise them to send? I mean, we are condemning a professor. Would you advise the person to send a proposal that they plan, that they have in there, maybe they have thought of to work on? And if at all in their SOP, they are writing their SOP, how best would they include their proposal in that? I hope it's not too much. Sorry. The last one is that when you are going through programs online, and there's no information about funding, the funding they are providing, how best could one go about to know, to decide if they are really going for this program or not, at least the appropriate one. Thank you so much. I don't know if I was able to.
Okay. Thank you very much, Abdulbasit. I would like to ask one of the panelists to answer your questions, but since the question is very diverse, right, ranging from specific aspect. But I think the most important aspect that I think they haven't addressed yet is what do they mean when they talk about of selling yourself or the value that you have to offer. You're going there to learn, so you probably are playing small. So how do you articulate the value that you have to offer? I think that's one of the most key questions that you ask. Others ones will still be addressed, but so that we can take other people. So I like B3. Can you comment on selling yourself? I mean, what's that specific thing that means to when you want to sell yourself, demonstrate your value? What does that even mean specifically?
Okay, from my POV, I think it's more about what you bring in research or productivity wise, not necessarily like diversity, because yeah, like anybody could fit diversity quota. It doesn't have to be you. So I think it's more about what from your personal experience, because that's what you're telling in your SOP, from your personal experience, what have you learned? What experience have you had that shapes you as a person that could influence either the productivity of like the faculty, which is like the person you're trying to work with, or like the department in general? Like what value do you bring? So I don't think it's about diversity, because in that case, like anybody can feel it. But like whatever specific value you bring to the table. So let's say like experience wise, like research wise, whatever value you would bring, it has to come from you as a person, not the quota. So I think it's more about how your experiences has taught you or shown you something that might actually be of something of importance to the research or like to the department in general. So that's what I would say from my point of view.
Thank you very much. Olumide, please can you state your question, then we'll take Sineseli after that. So right.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. My name is Olumide. I'm a pharmacy graduate from OAU. Shout out to my colleague that I see online in the panel session. One question I want to ask is, I noticed that a lot of schools have funded programs for their PhD. I am somebody that, when we were in school, our aim was to graduate. So we did not put a lot of effort into our grades that much because we wanted to graduate and leave the system. Now we are looking at the fact that most master's schools will require you to pay or maybe apply for scholarship, while PhD will give the option for teaching as well as maybe you just give a job opportunity for the payment. Actually, PhD is actually free. So I want to ask, is it possible to go straight from a Bachelor of Pharmacy or a BSc course directly into PhD without having to worry about masters? And is it kind of something somebody can do? Thank you very much once again.
All right. Thank you very much. I'll direct that question to Paul, as someone doing a PhD. So can you address that question quickly?
Yes, I would say it's possible. It's very possible. Like I know a lot of people who went straight from bachelor's degree to
Personally, sorry
PhD.
for cutting you short, Paul. Personally, do you have an MSc before you proceed?
Yes, I have a master's degree.
You have a master's.
That's why I said I know a lot of people who went straight from bachelor's to PhD. Some people even straight from just finishing NYC straight to doing a PhD program. So it's very possible, but it just depends on your profile, whether you have publications, for instance, whether you have maybe taking some of the standardized tests can improve your chances. And it also depends on how you tell your story. How you package your SOP and your CV would kind of highlight some of the achievements that you've achieved within the course of your study and why you are a good candidate for the PhD program that you are applying for. So having a good profile it would give you a good chance to get the PhD program straight from your bachelor's degree. So, what are the things that you can do now? Since you said you're already out of school, some of the things that you can do is you can collaborate with people that are still in school that are doing research, to publish together, or you can collaborate to write a review. You can do online courses just to improve your chances. You can take some of the standardized tests. You can revamp your LinkedIn profile, revamp your CV, then write a strong SOP and have people review your SOP, and then do some volunteer work as well. So with these activities or with these different aspects, you can improve your profile depending on what you graduated with in your bachelor's degree and become competitive for a PhD program.
All right, thank you very much. So I believe Olumide's question has been answered. I'm sorry if I did not pronounce your name very well, but sincerely, can you please unmute and ask your question?
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Sorry, please, what's the correct pronunciation of your name, please?
Yeah, it's difficult even to me. Mqiniseli. Mqiniseli.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Yes, coming to the question, I had 3 questions, but the first one has been asked by the first who asked a question. But I'll just highlight it just to present it the way it came to me. I was just thinking, what does the grad school benefit from a student? But like the presenter was saying, but the one who asked earlier has already addressed that. Then coming to my other question directed to Damilola, can she clarify? I hope she's the one who talked about a dual degree. Can she clarify if I heard that part well? How does she manage double learning? Then the other one is directed to Marvellous. The one when she was talking about a recommendation, I'm not sure if I heard it correctly that you can ask recommendation from this a professor in the school we are still going to. I'm not sure if I heard that well. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, I'm not gonna bother calling your name because I know I can't pronounce it. Apologies for that. And yes, I mentioned that I'm in the dual degree program. So how do I manage it? I would say that it's very intensive, and really what happens is that if the school has designed a curriculum for a dual master's degree program, it means they have a structure to make it work. Although one thing I would notice that over the years, from communicating with my senior colleagues, they've talked about how things have gotten better, because that's one thing that's common here. They always want to get feedback from us about how things were, so that in the next year they make things better. So how do I have my classes? I usually have, like, in my first year, I usually had my business classes in the morning, and my MPH classes were usually like in the evening, and some of them were like online. I did more of my business courses in my first year than in my second year. Now, my second year, I'm going to do more of my public health courses. That's really, so if the school has that dual degree program, then there's going to be a structure around how to make it work. But I promise you, it's very intense, because ideally, like, an MBA probably takes about 2 years, and an MPH takes 2 years in some schools. So you're cramping up 4 years into 2 years. So you know that it's going to be very stressful. It means you're sacrificing maybe like times when you're supposed to be out playing and having fun with people, with like reading and applying for internships, or just applying for jobs, or just doing something towards your degree program. So that's the price that you have to pay. I hope I answered your question correctly. You can ask me any other question you don't understand.
All right, I think you did justice to that. Yes, like the question was, how do you manage the dual phase of your program? So I think Marvellous, the question is asking is that you clarify the example you cited, that how is that feasible? Is it a route to follow the aspect of?
Yeah, so just as I mentioned, I heard it for the first time sometimes last
Asking
week.
someone
So
from the school you're going
yeah,
to for recommended something just heard. Why are you advising it?
yeah, so just as I mentioned, I heard it for the first time last week, and the person said he has been in contact with this professor and they've been communicating up to the time of application. So I guess he decided to ask her, and she was interested in writing the letter for him just because she loved this research so much. And also in the comments, someone mentioned that she knows 2 people that have done that before. I did not do it. I heard it for the first time. But if it's something, you can try it. If there's a professor you are in communication with. I feel like that would be a great addition to your application if someone in that school can testify to who you are. But it's the first time I'm hearing of that since the time I've been like talking about, since the time of my application to now. So if it's something you want to try out, why not? I don't see any harm in trying that out. You can just send an email to someone you are in communication with already. Send your CV and all your documents and ask the person if they can send a recommendation letter for you. But if they decide not to, then there's nothing you can do about that. You just move on to the people around you. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Okay, I think Victory is raising her hands.
Okay, Victory, maybe you can go next.
Okay, I guess I'll just go ahead. I was just gonna add. So I heard of someone that did something similar, but it wasn't a situation of someone like they didn't know before. So it was more of a situation of I was working with this professor. My professor has a collaboration with this other professor, which is in this other school, which I also want to go to. So technically, I have a link with the person already because the person works with my advisor, and I work on my projects on my advisor's project. So it's more like I'm transferring to this school now. This person already collaborates with our lab, so the person already knows me in some capacity. Then the person wrote a recommendation for me, but it wasn't like I didn't know you. I was just like interacting with you, and I asked you to write a recommendation. So that was the only instance I've heard of. So that's what I wanted to like clarify. I don't know if Ibrahim is on the call. Someone else has their hands raised up.
All right. I'm going to step in briefly for Ibrahim. Thank you so much, Victory, for clarifying that. Karim, you can ask your question.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk. I don't really have a question, but I just want to add to what Victor and others have said concerning the issue of recommendation. Sometimes it is very important to inform the recommender of the outcome of the admission process, even if you don't get the scholarship or you got an admission without a scholarship. It also tells them how responsible you are and you are carrying them along. And many times when we collect recommendation, they don't even know maybe you've gotten the scholarship or you did not. And when you get to go back to them, it always looks like only when you need us, that is when you come to us to come and collect it. So I think that will also assist in bridging the gap. And sometimes just an encounter, they always want your immediate or past supervisors to write the recommendation letter. So in that case, I think we should always try to have a good relationship with them, not only when we are requesting, even if it is going to be once every month. I just want to say, how are you doing, sir? You don't need them, just send them a greeting. Likewise, the way we have Biosphere now, we have some of our people becoming professor very soon, associate professor very soon. Let's also get in touch with Biosphere in case uh, our supervisors or lecturers are getting tired to write for us. We have people in the community who can also step in. But if we are not engaging in the group activity or maybe getting in touch or getting closer to one or two people, then they might probably not know what to write for us. Thank you very much.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you so much, Karim. That was really profound. Yes, having a very good relationship is important. I think one of the things people do also is before the application starts, they start messaging the professors and saying hi, maybe like some weeks to just prep and everything, but I believe it's good to have a relationship even all around, aside from when it's time for applications. All right, I think we've addressed every question, right? Do we have any other question? Okay, so our time is very much fast spent, but well used. So thank you to everyone, Damilola, Marvellous, Paul, and Victory for being available for today's session. It was really awesome. So I'll just like to ask a very quick question, just rapid fire questions for four of you. One word to describe your first semester when you resumed. Just one word each. Okay, let's have Damilola first.
Okay, yeah, I was just gonna unmute. I would say fast. Fast was just the word. The speed at which everything was moving. Hi. I was playing catch up, honestly. So yeah, fast is just the word.
All
Mine
right, thank you,
Okay,
Damilola. What was Marvella?
Mine is mixed emotions.
You said what?
I wasn't sure of how to even feel during that first semester. Sometimes I'm happy and really active, then the other time I'm like, what did I get myself into? So yeah.
Okay, thank you, Marvelous. Paul, let's have you.
so for me, I would say intensive because it was like assignments back to back, one thing to do, one this requirement, this task, and all of that. So I would say the word is intensive for me.
Okay, thank you, Paul. And Victory?
I think for me, I would just say crazy is the word. It's like crazy with like bunch of Y's.
Okay, that is epic. All right. Yeah, so we've all learned about applications to grad school. And I believe if there's anyone that does not have any information prior to this session, I believe you've been equipped with some very important tips and information to apply, and very soon applications will start, so get ready. And thank you everyone for being available for tonight's session and for even waiting up till this time, right? So we've come to the end of today's panel session. Good night, everyone. Oh, are there any last words, Welt and Martin?
All right, let me just thank you for stepping in during the technical glitch.
Okay. Okay, bye everyone.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
All right, thank you very much, our panelists.